welcome back to my channel today. If you're new, welcome to my channel. Today I have another palette declutter because I'm not reaching into my collection. I did recently go into my collection and tape over the shades with some Scotch tape, the shades that may have carmine in them or definitely have carmine in them, and I just found that I'm really not reaching into those palettes. I did have an original goal of pick a completely vegan palette. I do have a carmine allergy if you're new and don't know that. And then I'll choose a palette that has tape in it, but obviously use the shades that are not taped. But I'm just really not reaching into them. Like, I just need 100% vegan. Now there are some palettes that I do use very frequently and they're not 100% vegan, but I do stay away from the shades that would have carmine in them, and I'm completely fine with the shades that don't. I am going to have a few piles, so one of the piles of course are the ones that I'm keeping, which is not gonna be that many. A declutter pile, then my mom and I are going to go through that pile and decide whether we want to give that palette to a family member or a friend. Usually depends on how expensive it was, because a lot of these palettes my mom did initially buy. There are some that she has bought for me and then she gave to me if she did buy them and didn't want them. But I did actually buy a lot of these palettes, the more recent ones anyway. You know, typically we will give a more luxurious high-end palette or product to a family member, but there are some times that we actually do give them to one of my friends. Depends on the friend, because I know all of my friends' needs, so I might give one luxury item or high-end item to one friend but not the other because I know it doesn't suit their needs and whatnot. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So I have a lot of palettes here, and I believe my last palette declutter I ended up with like 40 something palettes, which is probably the same. I have gotten a couple more palettes since, and I am currently waiting on I think 3 eyeshadow palettes that are 100% vegan. So I'm really just trying to make my palette collection more exciting and make me actually just want to open the drawer itself and dive into some cool eyeshadows. Now, if you know me, very much into colorful makeup, so you might see a lot of colorful eyeshadows here. I'm not really into like neutral stuff. Of course, I did just like throw on makeup today, just eyebrow gel. I have no eyeshadow on, mascara, a lip gloss, and some Dermalogica sunscreen, and that was it. Yeah, we're gonna get through everything because there's a lot of palettes to the side of me. So the first palette I have is the ABH Anastasia Beverly Hills Norvina Pro Pigment Volume 1 palette. So this is part of their Norvina collection. So everything in the Norvina collection is 100% vegan, no carmine whatsoever, which is nice. I actually bought number 2 first, and then I thought, you know what, I might need some of these colors for transitions or just to deepen up something. I find that I really don't use this palette as often as I should, but it is nice to have something that is vegan, and there are a few shades in here that I dip in frequently when I am using this palette. Like, I'll keep going into the same shade, so I'm still going to keep that palette, but I would say I like number 2 better, volume 2. I know purples and even sometimes reds can be hard to make, but for some reason I feel like the formula in this one is just a tad different than volume 2. If you had volume 1 and volume 2 then use them both, like there's just something different about it. I can't put my finger on, but I really think it just might be because it's harder to make purples, pinks, and reds and all that. This is volume 2 in the Norvina collection. This is my favorite palette. This was the first one that I bought. When I first saw it, I was like, I'm buying you. They're all $60, which is pretty pricey, but these are pro pigments. These palettes are more suited for makeup artists. I'm a makeup enthusiast and self-taught also. I just love this palette. I do keep it clean, but other than that, I have a dent in A2, and this formula is just too good to pass up. Like, I know that Ulta sells these online. We don't sell them in the store, and I really wish we did, because I do have some guests from time to time when we were open that would ask me like, oh, where are your brightest colors? And I'm like, online. I really wish that we had these bigger palettes in store. I think it would make a huge difference in everyone's shopping experience and just their overall makeup collection. But if you ask me, I highly recommend this number 2 palette. Another great brand that makes great eyeshadows and are also completely vegan is Jeffree Star Cosmetics. This is the Bloodlust palette. This is his recent palette, and may I add, the slip is super thick, which is nice. This is a really big palette and the shades are so nice. Oh my god. I haven't dipped into this as of recent, more so in March, but I'm trying to use my Blue Blood palette more often. The shades in here are so nice. I remember I tried to do a look where I put Dungeon in my crease. I mean, I did put a lighter color in there first. I think I went in with Monarchy first, Dungeon second, and then I put Sworn Enemy on my lid. You would think it would look good. Now Dungeon is like a grayish purple, but it did not look good at all. And I was no, like I thought it would look good, but it didn't. So I feel like there's a learning curve to this palette because there's a lot of different color combinations that you could do. But obviously makeup is trial and error amongst eyeshadow combinations. Other than that, I have created some amazing looks. I will say some of the looks that I have created so far, they kind of end up turning out the same, but I don't mind because it's just a great palette and doesn't have Carmine. Just letting everyone know that the Jeffree Star Cosmetics formula and the A-Beach Norvina Pro palette formula do not mix at all. I've tried using both palettes at once. It's not a good idea. Just putting that out there. This is actually my mom's and she wanted me to try it, but I know for a fact that Tarte shadows are not vegan. I know some of the products are vegan, but for the most part their shadows are not. This is a discontinued palette, Be a Mermaid and Make Waves eyeshadow palette. She did buy me this, a different one, but I swear I got a dead palette because it was awful. Like, I can't even describe it. The formula was not good in that one. She said, I swear this palette, the one that she bought for herself, is really good. Like, most of these shades are pinks and maroons and purples, and I'm like, I don't want to risk it. So I'm just gonna give this one back to her. Urban Decay Born to Run palette. This is actually one of my favorite palettes that Urban Decay has come out with, and so you will see some shades that are taped over. You know, I really just don't reach into this. Weekender, I would say, was my favorite shade. There's a very big dent in the middle. I don't even know if you can see that on camera, but there's a big dent in there. I don't know, I think one of the past couple times that I did try using this, it didn't perform the way it did when my mom first bought it. So I'm gonna untape the shades and I'm gonna give this back to her. There were some shades that I did have trouble with, Carmine wise, but like blendability and just pigmentation, like just weren't that great. The Urban Decay Naked 2 palette, and I can already tell you, I think I'm gonna give this to my friend Jamie because I know that she loves this palette. I don't reach into this. It makes me sad because my mom bought this for me because she knew I really wanted it at one point. I think it's the fact that there is barely any matte shades in there besides this, besides this one, like this purple and gray undertone shadow right there. But like, I don't know. I used to dip into cool tone palettes all the time, but now it's kind of a mix. Definitely not into super warm tones as they just don't go with my undertone, my cool and neutral undertone. But I don't know, like every single time that I dipped into this palette, I'd be like, why did I stop using it? But I'm just a full-on colorful eyeshadow person, so I'm gonna give this to her. And also happy birthday, because it's her birthday today. I know my mom gave me this, and there are a lot of shades that were taped. This is a Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. Oh, it's kind of lost its peach scent. It still smells like peach, but definitely lost a little bit. So I'm gonna untape everything and give it back to my mom. I know that my mom really liked this, and I know that a lot of people online have really liked this as well, but I have not dipped into it since I put the tape on there, and I can't do it. I'm going to sound like a broken record in this video, just letting you know. This is the Tarteless 2 in Bloom palette, everyone's favorite neutral palette. Can only use 3 shades in there. One of them I did hit pan on, this one right there, which is Smarty Pants, and also Charmer. I did hit pan on that one too. That was a really good shade. I think that was my favorite shade in the entire palette. We've had this palette for like a number of years. Even like 2 years ago, these deeper shades barely performed at all. They just weren't good. They're so patchy. So I only really used like a few shades in here, which were mainly the lighter ones. I'm going to untape everything and put this in the mom pile. Even though that was actually one of my favorite palettes, I can't. I'm gonna say I can't for everything, but I can't. As you can see, I'm being a lot more strict. Lime Crime Venus 3rd palette, and I know that this palette and brand for a fact is vegan. I honestly don't really use this palette anymore. I used to very frequently when I was first working at Ulta, because I know this palette came out around then, and I did have some trouble with the shades. My favorite combination was Dreamy and Beam on top. It looks so pretty. But I think the last time that I used this, even though it claims to be vegan and no carmine in there, my eyes got itchy. Alright, this is a sad palette, and I wanted to do this declutter, but I didn't, because this is the ColourPop Disney Designer Collection Midnight Masquerade, and I can only use 2 shades, except one of them actually, the Gaston shade. Every single time I've worn this, it doesn't have carmine in it. It might be the red dye. I don't always react to red dye. Sometimes I do, just trial and error. This shade made my eyes so itchy. And then Royal Ball, which is like the prettiest shade in the palette. I can use that one, but everything else I can't. I know some palettes in my head of what I want to give to my cousin Sarah, because I have a big bag for her. I feel like she would enjoy this. Yeah, she just turned 16, so happy belated. It's sad because I was so excited to get this palette when this came out last fall, but I have not dipped into it since I taped everything. It's a may have carmine. A lot of the shades I didn't have trouble with, but I can't risk it. Violet Boss Pro Eyeshadows Taupe Notch palette. I did just recently find out that this entire palette is completely vegan, which is so nice. The shimmers are not that great, but the mattes are really, really nice. I haven't tried every single shade in this palette, but some of the shimmers were just like, yeah. It could be because it has gotten old, but it is really nice to count on Violet Boss for vegan shadows. Not everything from her is vegan, unfortunately, but I did find out that this one was. Too Faced Chocolate Gold palette. I actually really like this one the first time I used it. There's 2 shades that are taped, which is the pink. Oh my god. Whenever I use that, like my eyes were itchy. And then this one I think is a may contain carmine. Certain times where I'd actually have trouble using this palette, and it's one of Too Faced's like most lovable palettes. It is really, really good. I actually think that it's better than the Sweet Peach palette in my opinion. The undertones in them just don't look good against my skin tone. This is a face palette that I got in my gratis. This is the JEBeauty Glow Kit in Sun Dipped. And I can only use this during the summertime because this is the darker version. I have used it as eyeshadow one time and it was very, very basic. They're great to use as eyeshadow if you are so basic with your makeup and just want something simple but to kind of catch the light on your eyelids. This would be a good palette. The one that I did use in the summer as my highlight when I was super tan would be Summer, because all the other ones were very, very dark. So that's the Summer shade, and you can pop these out and refill them or put them in a Z palette, whatever you want. So I'm going to be keeping that one. In reality, this entire palette would be so good for Tori, but I really like that Summer shade. Morphe and Jeffree Star collaboration palette. So one of my coworkers, Emily, thank you again, had recently given this to me, and I was so excited because I know that I actually really, really wanted this palette. Now it doesn't say on either the Morphe website or the Ulta website whether this is vegan, but I know all of Jeffree's formulas are completely vegan. I'm gonna guess that it's vegan because I've used a lot of the pink shades and have not had an issue, but I did look through the ingredients and nothing said carmine unless it was like Red Lake or something, which I know is not the same. But anyway, unfortunately not my favorite palette, but the shade Back, My Mogul, and Pink Fleet are my favorite shades to use. Millions is so chunky and it's hard to use. Nate, really sad. It's a sad shade because of the name, but also because of the formulation of it. It's not good. I love Jeffree Star shadows. Obviously, this is more like Morphe's formula. It is a little bit different, I think, than other Morphe shadow formulas. It's not my favorite palette, but I feel like if I need something in the pink category that's like really, really light, then I'll go into it. I definitely need to try out more of the shades. I think it's just that knowing I don't like the formula that much, I won't reach into it, but it doesn't have carmine in it, so I'm gonna keep it. Take a shot every single time I say vegan and carmine, won't you? Dose of Colors Desi and Katie Foundation Palette, the prettiest packaging you ever did see. Has the shades on the back. There are 2 shades in here that I had to tape because I used them both in January, and then my eyes were itchy for almost a week. I did hit pan on the Just Kiss shade, very iconic. The last time I did use it, kind of made my eyes itchy. Could have been a combination of using those 2 shades, but then I tried using it some other times and made my eyes itchy, so I'm like, I'm just gonna stop. I am going to sanitize this and take the tape off and give it to Tori because I feel like she would really like this palette, and even though these look very neutral browns, they actually come out kind of orange on me, and Tori is more tan than I am, especially in the summertime, and I know that she dips into color sometimes, but these are duochromes, and so is this pink one. Like, that would look good on her. This is like a gold green, and then this is a blue purple, and then this is like a bluish black. Oh, and some purple in there. Jeez. Anyway, the formula is so good, but I just can't. I do have a backup of it, so I'm gonna give her both. Okay, so it is many hours later. My battery was dying, so I went to go charge that. I ate some food, played on my phone, and then I slept for 2 hours, and I just ate dinner, and now I'm here. So I look a bit tired. It shows. The Pretty Vulgar Nightingale eyeshadow palette. I just did a review on my channel with this palette because it was sitting in my collection. I've never tried it. This is a palette that my mom gave to me, and I don't remember if she actually bought it from Sephora when it came out or if she got it in like a FabFitFun kit or something. They're pretty shadows, and I'm not someone who's into neutrals, but I think it's old. The Hide and Chic shade right here was good. And then I noticed when I was editing that I'm like, what made my eye look not look good? And yeah, I did put a darker brown shade all over the lid for the most part. I realized that there's slight sparkle shimmer, more sparkles because they're a little bit more sparse in this swoop shade, and I could see the shininess when I was editing, and I'm like, oh, that's probably what made it look kind of weird. I think if I had done maybe a different color, it wouldn't have looked so weird, but it definitely had a shine to it. I am going to try this palette out again. This was a holiday palette that Ulta carried, and I can tell that every single time I close it, you can get your fingernail and everything. Here's what the palette looks like. It is blinding with sequins. I don't remember what this palette was called. I did tape a few shadows in here. This is what the palette looked like. It had 2 blushes, bronzer, and a highlight, and then it had all these eyeshadows, and then it had the Maneater mascara and the Maneater liquid liner, both 2 of my favorite products. And I tried those 2 products out for the first time when my mom got this kit, and they were really good. Some of my favorite products to date. I tried these shadows a couple times. It looks like I barely dipped into it, honestly, but I did try it. Not my favorite. There's a really good variety of shadows here between light, darkness, shimmer, metallic, whatever, but I just didn't find the formula to be that good. Eyeshadow, blush, highlighter, bronzer, and eyeliner made in China, mascara made in Italy, lipstick made in USA. Holiday makeup isn't really the best because it's mainly made in China, for the most part anyway, unless, like I said, the mascara is like made in Italy, but that's besides the point. I feel bad because my mom kind of bought it for me. I feel like I can't use it. I still haven't really tried the face powders. Those I would have to be like super tan. Like, this is not made for a fair skinned person, and I know this is coming out pretty light, but it's actually a little bit it is light, but it's really bright, and that bronzer would be so dark on me. Morphin and Jaclyn Hill collaboration palette. This was one of her 10 shade palettes in Dark Magic. This was my favorite. Turns out I can only use 3 shades in the palette. The 3 shades I'm talking about that I can use that I did not like. The mattes were incredible. I tried them in 2019 and I got this palette in 2018. Something with the formula changed because the mattes did not perform the way that they did when I first got this palette. Don't know what it is. I wasn't using like different brushes or anything. I used the same exact brushes because it was the Morphe Jaclyn Hill brushes, which are really good, but I just got new bling brushes. But anyway, something changed with it. So all the mattes were really good, but the shimmers were not good at all. Honestly, I still think that this is the best black eyeshadow that I've ever used, next to Tati Beauty, but still for a while it was like the best black eyeshadow I've ever used. Apparently it might have carmine in there. This is a face palette that my mom had given me. I think she more so gave it for me to try, but it is all shimmer and I still have not reached into it. This is the Cover FX Perfect Highlighting Palette. Blossom, Prism, Rose Gold, Golden Peach, Celestial, and Gilded, which is some of the same names that they have in their liquid eyeshadows that I'm like iffy about. Those are the shades. That's all from my mom. Oh, that's kind of nice. You're not gonna be able to see it really. It's a lot lighter, but it reminds me of my Moonstone shadow from Becca. So that was the shade that I swatched. I'm not gonna use it, honestly. If this was a blush and it was matte, yeah, I would use it. I'm very picky on makeup, and I think that's okay, because why would I just keep having palettes in my collection that I'm not gonna use, you know? This one is sad to me because I was so excited to buy this and it was pricey. It was really pricey for the brand, and most of the shades I cannot use. The Stila Happy Hour palette, it was $52. Crazy, I know, but the palette feels very heavy. It looks luxurious, kind of looks like a gold bar. I did have trouble with some of the shades, but the shades that I had trouble with are the ones that I can use, and the shades that I didn't have trouble with are the ones that I cannot use. So I can literally only use 4 shades in this palette, and you know, like most of these palettes, when I did tape them, I have not dipped back in because it makes me sad because I want to use the other shades, but I cannot. This next palette is a face palette. My friend Caitlin gave this to me. It's still in its packaging. This is from Clinique. It's the All Aglow face palette. So it's still in its packaging because I can only use this in the summertime. It's a limited edition face palette, although I have seen it come back and forth in my Ulta store. Her and I are definitely different skin shades and undertones. I did even try like the lightest highlight right here, and it was so dark on my face. Actually, that's matte, but I did try the lighter shades and it was so dark on my skin. And then I even tried the blush and it was pigmented. Clinique formulas, they're not kidding when it comes to pigmentation. I just have to be so tan when I use this. I just keep it in the unicarton just so it stays pristine because I don't want it to get messed up. I am very grateful that she gave that to me. I just can only use it when I'm really tan. But if you want some good pigmented blushes and highlighters, definitely go for Clinique. The Violet Voss Best Life palette. I was just using this in my last tutorial, my PMDD therapy playing with makeup video, and I did go through the ingredients of these. Now the shades all down here, none of them have carmine in them. They might have like a red like, if anything. I stay away from Love, Sunsets, Friends, and Getaway for the most part. I can still use the purple, which is fine. Yeah, and those were the shades that I liked, but I do mainly stick to this side of the palette, and sometimes I'll dabble into the neutrals, but this black shade isn't good. These are okay, but they're still kind of deep on me. The glitters are what I mainly dip into. And also I do like using these shimmer and metallic shades for a base before I put on the glitter, because these glitters aren't fully pigmented, just a tad bit more sparse. So it's really good to have some type of color and almost kind of like a shimmer underneath it. Sunshine, it just has red lake, but it is so pretty. I swear to God, it was so pretty on the eyes. It was just, oh, heaven. Whenever I use this, my eyes get so itchy. But I mainly go into Happy Hour, done Hugs, I've done, I think, Pets. Happiness, I don't go into that much. Laughs. So it looks really pretty in the pan. It's probably not gonna come up that well on camera. It's really pretty, but it barely shows up in the eye, which is really disappointing. So that's like the one downside to that glitter. Other than that, this is a really good palette. I wish I could use some of the shades, but you gotta work with what you got. I will be keeping this. This is one of my favorite palettes. I think if they had just the glitters, then I'd be really satisfied. It's the KKW times Mario collaboration palette. I don't really follow the Kardashians anymore. I'm going to declutter this palette. I will say this formula of this specific palette from KKW was like so good. But once again, with the taping, I haven't reached back in since. These colors are definitely a lot more warm, which doesn't always suit a cool undertone skin gal. I remember this blue being so good. This is sad to me, okay? The mini nude palette from Natasha Denona, and the one shade that I can use in here is this one, because all of these are may have carmine, so that's only one shade. And this was like my favorite palette when I first bought it, even though it's a lot of warm tones, some neutrals in there. I was going to do a standalone video on this, on like this being the best back to school palette, and I just never did. It just kept getting too late. Ugh, such a good palette. Oh my god, if you don't have a carmine allergy, please go buy this. It's so good. The one shade that I did have trouble with was Lumina right here. Other than that, it's really good. I will say they do collect hard pan very quickly. That's kind of one of the reasons why I had trouble with that shade. It was like after the first couple, either the first time or like the second time that I used it, I already had hard pan. So just something to note, but this is literally so many. Oh my god. Like, look at that. Even like small things don't look that small on camera, but this is small. This was a brush that I found in my palette container holder thing, and it's an Anastasia brush. I remember my mom giving it to me. I'm gonna give this to my cousin Sarah because I already have given her a decent amount of palettes. I feel like this would help her out. This is another Jeffree Star palette. It is huge, it's chunky. This palette is so nice. I did have trouble using it at first because of course it's a brand new formula. Sometimes there's a learning curve with other brands' formulas. It's normal, but this is a really good palette. I love using Minty and I'm Cold to diffuse my upper crease area just to make it blend seamlessly. It looks so good. I was disappointed with the shimmer shades down here because they're more like a topper, not fully pigmented. But other than that, this is a really good palette. And of course, if you love blues and greens, definitely recommend this palette. I have not used every single shade, but I need to. And it's vegan. This next palette is the Profusion Mixed Metals palette 9 matte and metallic eyeshadow. So Nicole gave this to me as a gift one year. These are the only two shades that I found that either... Oh, it has the ingredients on the back. I didn't realize that. I found it somewhere that it may have carmine in it or something, or I just taped them because they were just a little bit pink and reddish tones, so I just taped them anyway. Well, besides now finding the ingredients, it doesn't look like they have carmine in them. I mean, this was part of a kit, but like, I just don't reach into this palette. It's a little bit too warm for me. I want to give this to Tori. Sorry, Nicole, but I'm afraid that it's gonna have something in there that's gonna react weird. Yeah, it does have red in there, so could be a possibility, but I'd rather give this palette to someone who I know is going to love it as much as I did. And I did really like the formula at first, but I just don't want to keep palettes in my collection that I'm not reaching towards. This was a little single shade from the brand Wycon Cosmetics. I bought this in Siena, Italy. Kind of resembled like a Kiko Milano store, and I remember that we had Kiko Milano in Florence. This is, yes, a very pretty shade. Kind of more subtle, but I don't reach for it, and I did this in my last declutter. I was like, wow, that's really pretty. I should keep that. I should use it. Didn't reach for it. JEBeauty Desert Dusk palette. One of my favorite palettes, but I had to tape most of the shades, and a lot of the shades I actually really liked. I know that one of the last times I used this palette, I did get some itchies around my eyes, so yeah, unfortunately. I did have some trouble with some of the shades, but for the most part, this is a really good palette. My mom bought this and then she gave it to me because she didn't like the formula. I don't know if the formula has gotten better over the years because she bought this when it came out. This is another Natasha Denona palette. This is a camel palette. For this being warmer, neutral, I actually really like this palette. There is one shade that I cannot use. I think I just kept forgetting that it was in my collection, so I am gonna keep it. No, it's not vegan, but the colors are really pretty. This was really good. I really do like Natasha Denona's formulas. They're so good, but she's not vegan. And I remember when I tried the Star palette when my mom got it more recently, my eyes were so itchy. I was like, I need to get this off right now. Violet Voss, the Rainbow Eyeshadow Palette. I've tried a number of Violet Voss eyeshadow palettes before. This was my mom's and I just used this recently in my recent tutorial. I don't think that this is vegan. Like I said earlier, most of her palettes are not vegan, but that Taupe Notch just so happened to be vegan. I do stay away from Flamingo, Indigo, and Violet, and then I just use just about every other shade. Peach, I'm gonna have to try out. Buttercup should be fine. Royal and Pearl and Eclipse. Seafoam, Fiji. I used Seafoam the last time, but yeah, those shades I'm fine with, but Peach and Buttercup I'm definitely going to try out because sometimes the more golden shades may have a little bit of red in there. This is a really nice palette. It is so pretty. Oh my god. Ugh. Just love it. This is the Benefit Cosmetics Cheerleaders a Bronze Squad palette. It is a highlight, contour, and bronze palette. This, oh my god, this is such a good palette. However, I don't use everything in here. The Hoola bronzer is so orange on me. It's not even funny. Even the Hoola light is orange on me. Ugh, not a good thing. Not a good look. Unfortunately, I cannot use that. Definitely could not use Hoola Caramel. I could probably use these as eyeshadows. I don't know if I've tried, but I would have. That happens every time. The brush always falls out when I do this. I would just have to see if they have carmine in there to do so. Cookie, that's their like most famous highlight as to date. This has hit hard pan so much, but I can only use this when I'm tan and it looks so good when I'm tan. Oh my god. I actually really like this Coralista blush. So compared to the Too Faced Pop Note Peach blush, which I love, but I haven't been using that because I think it's just better for the summertime or with certain looks that I wear. This is a lot lighter and brighter. That's kind of the difference. If you've seen what the Pop Note Peach blush looks like, which they did kind of reformulate a little bit, like the newer version of it. It's more pink and it has gold shimmer in there, I think, now instead of silver, but it does look really good on the skin. Gold Rush is supposed to be a blush topper with some gold flecks in there that I cannot see right now. My brush probably took them all away. It's not bad. Not the greatest I've tried, but it's okay. This is another palette kind of like the Clinique A Glow palette that I need to use when I'm tan. This is a palette that my mom gave to me. This is the ABH Contour Kit Light to Medium. I feel like I always hear really great things about this palette. It's a palette that I feel like is sold out very often and you can't really find it. I still have not used this palette. Anything that you see is from my mom. I think I'm just so hooked on my Sephora Colorful Contour shade at first touch that I just cannot stray away from it. But also, I barely reach in the face palettes as it is, unless it's one that I like really like. I need to try this out. I know I do. This is the Morphe Dare to Create 39A palette. It is huge, almost whacked myself in the face twice. I couldn't find the ingredients of this palette because it has been discontinued. I think this was a 2017 holiday palette, I want to say. So I did tape over some shades as I thought would most likely have carmine in it. I don't really know about the middle row, to be honest, but I know that eyeshadow palettes do have that expiration open container icon. However, there are a lot of shadows that do last beyond that little like 12-month, 24-month date. In the past, I've had eyeshadow palettes that would last so many years and they'd be completely fine. They didn't smell like mold, they weren't growing like mold. As far as I knew, they were fine. They worked perfect. So I think that this is definitely one of those palettes. I'm a little iffy with Morphe formula. I feel like it's definitely a hit or miss. This is a really nice palette. I just don't reach into it. To me, these colors are very muted. And then when I first looked at this palette, I was like, whoa, that's a colorful palette. But if you really compare it to a lot of other bright palettes, this palette is very muted in color. If this palette was still out and available, I would recommend it to someone who's just starting to get into makeup because you have options and they're not overly bright. The brightest is going to be this shade right here, maybe a couple of those berry shades, or that fiery orange shade right there. This palette, I should have decluttered it in my last declutter because I have not reached into it. This is the Morphe and James Charles palette. I have not used this since that whole thing. Honestly, I hate to say it, but I haven't. You just saw the Dare to Create. You are now seeing the Artistry palette how different they are. You can see how this is much brighter and the other one is much more muted. Still have some more muted shades like right there. This one, even though it doesn't have carmine in it, I know it's a pressed pigment. When I use this, my eyes got so itchy. So weird. I really like that shade too. I think I'm just gonna give this to Sarah because this is really just sitting in my collection, and whether you like James Charles or not, it is a really good palette. There were some shades like this one I noticed is more of like a topper. I feel weird including this in my video. I'm not all about like the drama stuff. I don't mention drama stuff in my videos, and I even like feel weird I'm like cringing doing it in this, but yeah, I'm just gonna give this to my cousin. Those are all the palettes. I am going to count all of these, and in my editing I will put on the screen of the palettes that my mom and I decided to give to whoever. I still did keep like just a handful of palettes, but honestly my palette collection has not been this small in a long time, so I'm very happy because now I can just reach into the shades that I please. See, I'm having second thoughts about the Violet Voss Taupe Notch. I feel like I'm not going to use it, but I'm keeping it just because there are a lot of neutral brown shades if I need something. That's pretty much the only palette besides the Pretty Vulgar one that I'm like about right now, but for the most part it's a smaller collection. I'm fine with it. I may even go deeper and just be like, nope, you're going along the way, but it's pretty small. Some of these palettes are also face palettes, not a lot of them, but some of them, that makes a difference too. And that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more videos on beauty, fashion, and health. Click that notification bell if you want to be notified when I do upload, which is between 1 to 2 times a week. And I hope you have a great day. And I'll see you later. Bye!